all edutainment software takes the form of a game, sometimes it's just a well-made application, and this right here is a shining example. David Macaulay's The Way Things Work for Windows 3.1, developed and published by Dorling Kindersley Multimedia in 1994. So that's what DK stands for. As a kid, I always thought it stood for Donkey Kong or Dick. Anyway, if you were around in the 90s, there's a solid chance you're familiar with illustrator David Macaulay's excellent The Way Things Work series. These books were huge, both physically and in popularity, and I absolutely loved them. Seems like every time we went to the library, I would ask to borrow it, admiring every drawing and soaking up all the knowledge of mechanical workings I could. Kids like me ate it up, and a plethora of spin-off books, TV shows, and computer programs resulted, including The Way Things Work 2.0, The New Way Things Work, The Way Things Work Pinball Science, The Way Things Work Death, Taxes, and Awkward Conversations with Your In-Laws, and so on. But it's the original PC program that we're looking at today, complete in its classy gatefold box which opens up to reveal more artwork, ads for other DK Multimedia products, a sampler disc with demos of said products, and the actual CD-ROM you paid for. Once it's installed, start it up to find that this isn't just a virtual adaptation of the book, it's entirely animated. Yeah, the entire logo is animated. This was just phenomenal in 1994. Having looked at the book for so long, just static images, look, not anymore. The menus are animated too, complete with narration and pop-up video shenanigans with practically everything you click on.
Everything is arranged on these shelves. I have hundreds of machines here.
During the multimedia PC craze of the early to mid-90s, kids' games were chock full of stuff like this, but The Way Things Work made perfect use of it in my opinion. You see, while many other games did this sort of thing, this one was better because I played with it a lot, and my nostalgia trumps all logic. The Way Things Work book is responsible for a ton of my tinkering, geeky interests to this day, and as such I cannot do anything but praise it and anything related to it. And it's not all blind praise either, because even going back to it as an adult and doing my part to try and pick out the flaws, I genuinely didn't find myself doing much of anything more but smiling and enjoying. It's a computerized version of the book, sure, but it's a lot more effective than that, at least for the way that I happen to learn. I'm very visual, I like to see things played out in front of me. With the book, you're looking at static images and you have to rely on arrows and dashes to figure out the motion of things and how all that stuff fits together. But with a multimedia CD-ROM like this, all you had to do was hit play and watch. The list of subjects it covers is massive too, with well over 1,000 articles and 70,000 words, so there's no shortage of content to sort through at the expense of the animation. But even with all that content to soak in, it's the way it presents that content that makes it work so well. Messing around with The Way Things Work is a similar experience to like an old school encyclopedia on CD, or even like Wikipedia nowadays. You just kind of start wherever you want, say with learning about how floppy disks function, but before long you're down that rabbit hole and you've moved on to fulcrums, jet engines, and then you're watching people get electrocuted, all in the name of science. Beyond just wandering around aimlessly, you can take a guided tour through scientific history, which takes you through various ages of discovery and invention, broad scientific principles, or you can be as precise as looking up specific machines and inventors by name. There's an absolute ton of information here, and yet that never feels overwhelming, as it should be. Each article or screen shows just enough to get the basic idea across, both through words and animated illustrations. And when you're ready for a little bit more, you can click the various red hyperlinks, which pops up a little bit more, drip feeding that sweet nectar of information to you like an IV of liquid scientific facts. There's not really any music, not really any guidance or objectives or story or puzzles or really anything in the way of the learning at all. It's just you and the program, and I miss that kind of thing. Now, there's plenty of reason to include that extra stuff, which they absolutely did in The Way Things Work 2.0, for example, but I also thoroughly appreciate something as simple as this. Simple, but not simplistic, if that makes sense. As a kid, this kind of presentation just really appealed to me. I was always taking things apart, even if there was no point and no hope of putting them back together. I just wanted to know how every single thing in my life came to be, how it functioned, what the reason was that it could even be real. I knew it wasn't magic, it had to be somebody putting it there. I took apart telephones, clocks, computers, appliances, an old credit card reader from my mom's work, even the dashboard of our old Hyundai, which I wasn't supposed to do at all, but whatever. I would sneak the tools out of my dad's tool chest and find some mechanical or electric object that I didn't think anyone would miss, and I'd spend all day and night on that thing, and that was it. It was just fun. So when something like The Way Things Work on CD-ROM came along, oh my god, it was just perfect. Like it was made for me. I could finally look inside of a VCR and see what happens to the tape inside. I could finally learn how computer games traveled across telephone lines through a modem, or what happens inside a TV to transmit pictures over the air. It was just so mind-bogglingly great to me that I genuinely didn't care about the lack of someone or something guiding me around by the hand and making it into more of a game thing or telling me what to learn next. I didn't need that in my life. I was ready to go out and explore the world on my own. Yep, even at 9 years old, whatever. Seriously, what's not to love here? Except for the fact that it's hard to run these days, and in that sense the books are probably going to have a much longer lasting legacy. After all, I still talk to people to this day that had no idea a computer version of this book even existed, so the number of folks who care about this piece of software is pretty slim. But now that you do know about it, why not check it out? Pretty easy to find, and you can run it in DOSBox just fine with a Windows 3.1 installation, and the 2.0 version works on virtual machines with Windows 95 and 98. It's one of those titles that still holds up incredibly well. You got kids, let them play this. I can easily see the current crop of youngins getting some solid enjoyment out of this, and sure, they've got Wikipedia, Google, and a bajillion apps in their phones and tablets, the lucky punks. But there's something to be said for the presentation in The Way Things Work that really stands out. It's not just the mammoth is great. It's just, it's just everything. The whole package. It's whimsical, approachable, captivating, while still being educational as nuts. As far as edutainment goes, that's the way things should work. And my apologies if the echo was a little noticeable in the background of this. I've just moved to a new place. It's still kind of empty. I will correct that as much as I can in the future. But if you enjoyed this video, then why not check out some of my others? I've got lots more edutainment stuff I've covered in the past, as well as more coming this month, and lots more interesting stuff beyond that here on LGR. And as always, I thank you very much for watching the show that this is and is not. It's all things at once. What?